saying I'm having bad network quality. Hopefully that won't be too problematic. Okay. I'm also a bit concerned that when we run the what's it called, the virtual environment, when I run it on this computer, that it may mess up the call. It may cause too much overloading of the system, and so what I may end up doing is that if when we switch over to the virtual environment to show examples, if there's a problem with the call, what I may do going forward is record separate videos and post those so that you guys can to show examples. So what we would do then is we your time, not the entire time. What we would do is we would meet for maybe like 1 hour or so for me to show the slide, not the slides, the student workbook, like just go over that and talk through. And then what we would do is I would record a separate video of showing examples for you to watch in some other time. So so we'll try that today. All right, we'll try showing examples today and we'll see what happens. I wanted to go ahead and state a couple things. One is my office hours have been set. If you see the syllabus, it has been modified to show that Wednesdays from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon will be my office hours. Again, what that means is that that's when I plan to be available in the office at the university campus. It doesn't mean you have to come there to see me. What it means is that I will be there and I will be free. So if you need to schedule or if you want to pull up a Teams call to get in touch with me, I'll come by the office, I'll be there. So that's the time that I'm setting aside to be available anybody who needs to talk. Okay. If that time does not sit well with you, if there's some other thing that you have, if there are problems with that time of day, Wednesdays at 12, then just message me and we'll schedule something else. Okay. Let's see, there was one other thing. I also posted this in the Teams class here for quiz. It's there are point values assigned, but that's more for a test on my part. So this is actually not a graded quiz. I'm not going to actually give you a grade on that, but it is something for me to test because there was early on with importing the quiz grades from Microsoft Form into Microsoft Excel. There were some issues with importing the grades properly where students were they were getting graded, and then when they imported the grades into Excel, the wrong grades were getting brought over. So part to make sure that things are being done well. But what I want to do with that quiz is it's actually more of a poll for you guys, for you to tell me how would be best for this class at this time for us to meet online. How best would it be to be managed? So 2 questions are: would you like me to post this to YouTube? I do have a YouTube playlist for these videos that I can use. Do you want? Do you also? How would you like us to do the break situation? So again, this class we're going to be meeting officially. This block is open from 9:30 until 12:30, and so what I would like to know is, would you like to leave at 12? Would you like to be done with this at 12, or we just go straight through, which would be a lot for some people, but better for others? Or would you prefer us to have a break to kind of like be able to, take that hour, the 50 minutes of what you've learned and just kind of sit with that? One other thing. Today, since that quiz has not been done yet, so I want you guys to go ahead and do that going forward. But for today, let's go ahead and plan to take a break at 10:20. So let's plan to take a break from 10:20 to 10:30, and then we will only have a second hour. I have an appointment I'll need to get to. So what we'll do is we'll end this at 11:20. Okay, end the whole thing at 11:20 today. Okay. All right. All right. Let's get into it. So where we left off was, let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and try to share. I want to. And what we did was we talked about running commands and my head should tell me what will tell me what the lasts are. If I put in a command line argument like -n, for example, it will tell me, I can tell it how many lines I want to look at. Okay. So let's see. WC command. So it's basically it's this general thing. I'm wondering, just okay. Let's see. Hopefully that's about to get better. Let's see. Okay, hopefully the network quality is about to get better. All right. If it continues to do this, we'll have to figure something out going forward, because again, I think part of the problem is because of the nature of this class and what I'm doing with using this virtual machine on this. It may be that there's a lot going on and on the computer, which may be causing problems with the call. So again, if this continues for the remainder of this first hour of the lecture, then what we'll do is I may try to do just a recording and have you guys watch that. We'll figure something out. All right. So hopefully you guys heard what I just said. Let's see if other students are saying the same thing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Back to this. Okay. So one of the things that I used last week that I don't know if I pointed out was this whole idea of tab completion. So as you are typing a command, sometimes we don't necessarily want to have to type out everything, right? We don't want to have to type out all of the, let's see. We don't want to have to type out the entire command if we just want to be able to type in a few characters. The same thing with a file name like this. We can use tab completion for file names as well. All right, so what we'll do is I'll show you an example of that. Actually, so let me go ahead and use the example of the head command using the etc password file again, like we did last week. Okay, so here you should be able to see. Oh, what just happened? You should be able to see now. What is going on? Back. Oh, it's doing that again. Let's see here. Let's try just sharing just the CentOS. All right. So you should be seeing now. Okay. You should be seeing the Linux operating system with the terminal window open. All right. And what I was trying to say was what we can do is if we wanted to say show the first so many lines of a file. Okay, so we want to show the first 10 lines, and the example I gave was the etc password file, right? So this shows the first 10 lines. Well, let's say that I don't remember exactly the name of the file or exactly maybe even where it is, but I know some particular characters. So maybe like if I know that it begins with the E, the folder that it's in begins with an E, but I can't remember, is it at etc? Is it ets? I can't remember. All right. So what I can do is I can type in like /E, and then if I hit tab, it's going to fill that in for me. Now it's going to fill that in if it knows there's only like one folder that got B. So for example, if I type in a P now and hit tab, just a single tab, okay. Sorry, I hit tab once, and I don't know if you heard the little noise that it made. Okay, but if I type in a P and hit tab, it doesn't do anything in it. And I don't know if you heard it or not, but I heard this. The computer made this little noise that told me, I don't know what you want. I don't know what file begins with P that you want right now. Okay, so if I type P and I hit double tab, okay, now it shows me the list of possible files and folders I might be wanting that's inside of the etc folder. Okay, so now I say, oh, I want right here. I want password, right? So so now I can do in PASS, hit tab, and it's going to fill it in. Now, now you may notice that there's more than one that it could have been. There's a pass WD and there's a pass WD with a dash. Now, the reason why it was able to fill in, if I type AS, for example, and I hit tab, it fills in with what it knows must come next. Because notice that if I type in PAS, no other files or folders don't start with PASSWD as well. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So for example, let me look for another good example here. PRO. Okay, so for example, if I were to say PRO, okay, so notice there's profile, there's also profile.d. Okay, so if I hit tab on pro, let's see. Oh, there's actually more than, okay, sorry, there's a PRO, there's also PROT, sorry. So if I hit PROF and hit tab, now it's going to fill in with profile, but it could be the .d as well. So if I hit now, oh, I actually want the other one, and hit dot and tab, now it's going to fill it in for me. I hope that's clear what I'm talking about, what I'm saying here. And again, I hope it's not lagging too much. But the whole idea is if I hit tab on something that it knows how to complete, it's going to do that for me. If I hit P, for example, and hit double tab, I can have it show me all the things that begin with that letter, okay, or that character. So if I did this, okay, so if I hit double tab on T, that's the T file, it's going to show me all the things that start with T. And then I'll say, oh, I want this one here, or I want this one here. You know, so it's, you can tell it what you want after that. So if you don't remember exactly, you can use the tab or double tab to be able to figure out what you're looking for. All right, back to and let's share instead. Let's Okay, so that's tab completion. One other thing that I wanted to point out before is it generally has all the same format. Okay, what you're going to have is you're going to have a command, okay, that you want to run. And then you will take arguments to that command. A lot of times, many times, one of the arguments you're going to pass to that command is a file or a folder, okay, or possibly more than one. Okay, so here in this example, command, the file that we're passing is the etc password file. Here, command, the file that we're passing is the two files, the etc group and the etc host file. Now, these other what we call command line arguments, you'll proceed with a dash and you'll tell it this is an argument I want to send. So by its nature, right, it's going to tell me how many lines, how many words, how many characters. So that the WC command is going to tell me how many lines, how many words, how many characters are in a file. Okay. If I pass this -L command line argument to the command, what's going to happen is it's going to say, oh, you just want only the lines. Okay. Or the -C is going to say, oh, you want only the characters. Okay. So by its own, it's going to give me all that information, but I can send a command line argument to say, no, I want you to behave slightly differently than normal. I want you to do something else. Okay. So commands take this format: command name, command keyword, command line arguments. One or more of those arguments can be folders or files. Okay. Let's see. We did talk about this, I think, last week. The history command. Notice the history command, you don't have to have command line arguments with that. The history is just going to tell me what's the most recent X number of commands that I have used. Okay. You can rerun a command. So if I do !ls, it's going to run the last time that I ran the ls command. It's going to use the same arguments. Okay. So like, this is especially useful for if you've run a command previously that was really long and you typed a lot, okay, and you don't want to have to retype all of that again. So if you run command, what's going to happen is, notice the last time the ls command was run, it had the -L argument. That's what it does. It does ls-L. Okay. Same thing here. If I run !26, it's going to run whatever the number 26 command was, ls/etc. It's going to run the ls/etc command. Okay, the ls command with the etc folder as being one of the arguments that's passed to it. Okay. We did talk about using the arrow keys, go up and down, up to go to previous commands, down to go to later commands. We did talk about that last week, so I won't go into that here. So, all right, so this will end chapter 1. There's a quiz. For those of you who downloaded the student workbook, you have this quiz. I will go ahead and post this quiz. This is not going to be a graded quiz. But I do encourage you to look at this and see your understanding of this. Okay. And then also, I think in the student resources, there should be a lab. You should have access to this lab stuff. Again, don't worry about this terminology, the desktop X system. You should have on your computer or on your virtual machine a running version of Linux that you can use to be able to perform the lab activities. Again, just like with that quiz that I just showed you a second ago, this one I will also go ahead and put a copy of this out onto the class for you to be able to have access to. Okay, I want you to go ahead and go through this. I want you to do this lab activity. so that you can get familiar with the command line. Okay, if you haven't already, and there is a solution that will also get posted. So one thing I do want to point out. The solution that will be posted is the solution from this student workbook. It does not mean that it is the only way to do things. Okay. One thing that hopefully those of you who have had me in classes before remember from our time together is often I say there's not only one way to do things. Right? There's oftentimes many different solutions to the same problem, and this class will be no different. There will be lots of ways that you can do the same thing. Okay, so again, that'll end chapter 1. All right, so we want to talk about chapter 2, managing files. We will talk a little bit about chapter 3 as well, about getting help, but I won't go too in depth into that because we'll just kind of do a bird's eye view on that. Okay. Sure. Let's see. So there's a question about setting up the CentOS or Red Hat on there. Okay, so if you, I can do a tutorial on that. You know what? Let's not do that right here, right now, though. Mostly because I'm concerned about how much resources from the computer that's going to take, and it could really affect the call more than what's already going on. So let me do a separate video of that, okay? And I'll get that to you. Today or this weekend. All right. So let's go ahead and good question. Thank you for that request. I didn't think about that. Some of you may not have had that set up yet. All right. So back to chapter 2. All right, so what we're going to do, let's just get right into it. We're going to talk about how to manage files, to copy, move, create. So many of you are probably used to I just open up, if I want to create a text file, I just open up Notepad, start typing, save it. Right? If I want to move a file from one place to another, just drag and drop, right? But sometimes things can be a lot faster or better for system administrators to be able to use commands instead of having to always drag and drop, and especially in terms of like moving stuff from one computer on a network to another computer on a network. Okay, so I do want you to read through this file system hierarchy. We won't go too much in depth into that, all right, today, but basically, so everybody's going to have a root directory. So there's a root user, all right, on a Linux system that's kind of the mega user, right? They're the ones that root can do anything. So if we were to say, for example, look back here. Actually, I think it won't let me do that. That's right, I forgot. All right. So one thing we looked at last week and this week, when I said looked at the head of the etc password file, it showed me the first 10 lines. The first user in the etc password file is the root user. The user ID is 0. So every Linux distribution, every Linux system is going to have a user called root. This is like the ultimate user on that system, can do anything. One thing that you'll see when we talk through this in this course is generally considered bad practice to log in as root. You can log in as root if you know the password for the root user, but because of the power that user has, it is generally considered bad practice to log in directly as that user. What you want to do is you want to log in as a separate user and gain access. Okay, and that, I think, which chapter is that? Let's see. I think we cover that in chapter 5, if I remember correctly. All right, so we'll talk about different ways to gain root access so that you can have the power that you need as a system administrator to do things without directly logging in as the root user and potentially messing things up. Okay, all right. See, so these are some important directories that you'll want to know kind of what these are for, what these are, why they're there. Okay. The bin directory, binary directory, is going to have your user commands. We talked about the etc directory that's going to have configuration files. The root directory is the home directory of the administrative super user, right? But then the home directory is where users store their personal data. So if we go back and look at here, you'll have the home directory that has all of the user stuff, and each of these users has their own directories, right? But then this upper level stuff is where all the system stuff happens, not the user specific stuff. Okay, which can sometimes get a little bit confusing because you kind of have this you have this user. Why do we have a user directory and a home directory that has users in it? This is the way things are set up. Talk to the folks that initially developed Linux to figure out why things are set up that way, but that's just how it is. So yeah. All right. Let's see. So you have a temp directory that'll have places for temporary files. All right. Some of these files will have been deleted automatically. All right. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so there's a quiz there as well. Again, for those of you who have gone ahead and purchased access to the student workbook, this workbook here, you'll have access to the quiz and the solutions to those quizzes. I am also going to post those quizzes as PDFs up to the Microsoft Teams class files directory. All right, let's see. Okay, so there is a difference in paths. There's an absolute path and there's a relative path. So an absolute path is going to start at the root directory and then specify each subdirectory. So for example, if you were using an absolute path, you would start way up here at the root directory, and to get to a file somewhere on the system, you would then have to use the different directories down from the root down to get down into where you're trying to get. All right. This is a useful thing for directories that are very close to the highest level directory that's on the system. Okay, especially for things like maybe that are in the var log, for example, like the var log. We have to get there from here. If we're logged in as a particular user, we're going to be starting somewhere down up in here, down inside of our directory. But we may want to get to some system file. So an absolute path would help us not have to figure out how to get there through some other path. Okay, but absolute paths start with this slash, okay, /, and then tell us where to go to get to that file. You've actually seen this before. Let me pull this up. Many of you probably have seen this. So if I'm here, I'm looking at what is this? This is where the lecture slides folder is on my computer. So this is on my computer. Okay. So if I look here at this, I'm gonna go back way back to the beginning. Okay, so if we think of it as the C: is like the root directory, it is the starting point of all files on the system, right? So if I want to get to this file through a command line interface, I would have to start at the root, start at C, and then go users, Lenovo, Octanes University, the course name, Fundamentals of System Administration, lecture slides. These are all folders that I'm navigating through, folders that I'm going through to get down to this file here. All right. Now, This is again very useful if the file that I need to get to, if maybe I'm Alice, okay, and I'm hanging out here, my system is currently in Alice's folder. This could be very useful, the absolute path, for me to get to these system files, right? But there's also what's called a relative path. Okay, a relative path does not begin with a slash. A relative path is going to begin with whatever the folder I'm trying to get to is. So going back to here, let's say that I was inside of this directory here, the class materials directory, and I want to get to the lecture slides introduction PowerPoint file. Now, it would be a lot of typing for me to have to type in all of this other in here, all these other folder names and stuff. It'd be a very time-consuming, quite frankly, annoying process to type through all these folders to get down to this file inside of here, right? Wouldn't it be a lot easier if I could just say type, I'm already here. Why do I need to go back up here into C colon and all those other folders? I could just type lecture slides slash my file I'm trying to access. And that's what we do with relative paths. A relative path starts from where I am, then I can use the folder name of what I want to get to, then the file name I want to get to, like there, okay? So if I was in the var directory, I could refer to the message log by using just the log folder slash messages, okay? Now, this is not to say that I can only go down into files that I want to get to. So let's say, for example, I'm sitting here in the, let's say I'm sitting inside I'm currently sitting inside of the lecture slides folder, but I want to not have to leave that folder. I want to go see what's up here in the syllabus file. Okay. Here, but I want to be able to go up and see the syllabus file. There's a way to do that without leaving the lecture slides folder, okay? So the way that we can do that, okay, is using these dots, okay? Again, some of you may have some DOS or other command line experience, and so this is just a review for you. But I have experience from teaching this class last year that many students have very little experience with actually using a command line, okay? So if we use the dot, so where is it, special one sometime? If we use the dot or dot directory, that tells us where to go. So dot refers to the current directory that I'm in right now. The dot directory says go up a level, okay? So if I'm sitting here inside of the lecture slides folder, if I say dot dot, it's going to go up to here and look in this folder here, okay? And then I can access the PDF file, so I could say dot dot, which means go up a level, slash CSC313 syllabus.pdf, right? Okay, so I can go up a level using the dot dot folder. Okay, let's go back because there was one thing I skipped there in trying to get ahead to the dot dot and dot dot folders. So we can touch a file to update a file's timestamp. But what we can do for something that doesn't exist already is if we say touch and give a file name as an argument to that command, it will create a blank file with that file name. Okay, so it would be similar to, again, if I was sitting here, and I could say I want to new, let's say text document, for example. Okay, if I were to create touch.txt, right, touch.txt, this creates a txt file that has no data, right? If I open this file up, What's inside? Nothing. There's nothing there. Okay. This is a way that you can do that same thing. Touch, give it a folder name. Doesn't have to be given. Actually, you could just create a file in the directory you're currently in. Right. So we can create blank files with these different file names. Okay. All right. ls, right, is something we use to list the files. Again, for those of you who may have DOS experience, this would be the same as dir. Okay, the dir command. So ls lists the files that are currently inside of this this folder that I'm in. Okay, so here from the home folder of the student user, right, we can list all of the files and folders that are inside of the home directory. Okay, the ls -l tells me to do the long listing, because there's not an ls only. All right, ls-la. By the way, when we do it this way, this is two separate command line arguments that we're giving. We're giving it the L command line argument and the A command line argument. So what we're saying is we want, this one says I want to list all files, long listing format. This says I want to list files using the long listing format, and I want all files, including hidden files. So if you see here, same directory, same command, different command line arguments, is going to give me all files. This just gave me the stuff that I could see. This gives me hidden files as well. Okay. All right. So we talked about the dot and dot dot. All right. Recursive tells me, okay, so this was not long listing, so this just is going to include the folders, and then, oh, what's inside of those folders? So the desktop has nothing, documents has these files that exist, videos has these files that exist. You remember these files here, they were, and these here, they were created using the touch command. Okay. All right, so we've talked about here, and we'll finish off this section, which is navigating paths. Yep. So we'll finish off this section and then take a break. So one thing that we talked about was if I'm here in one folder and I want to get access to, I want to view, do something with the file that's in a folder below or above, right? We could do that, right? We could do that using the slash, right? So lecture slides / introduction.pptx or whatever, right? So we can do that. We can access that file through using that path, but we can also change into, because some of you might be thinking, well, but how do I get into the lecture slides folder? How do I get out of the lecture slides folder into the folder above? You keep, Hoja, you keep saying if you're in this folder, if you're in that folder, right? So how do we get into those different places? Well, we do that through the CD command, the change directory command. That's what CD stands for, change directory. Okay. Again, this is why Microsoft DOS uses dir. Dir stands for directory, right? But Linux does not. Linux uses ls for list. Okay, the CD command changes a directory from where I am to somewhere else. Now, we can use a relative path, right? So here, change directory to videos, and it puts me in the videos. Notice this here, this information tells me where I am right now. So this tilde, what's called a tilde, this little squiggly line, right, says I'm in the home directory of this user. Now, when I change directory to videos, right, I am going to move into the videos folder, the videos directory, and now that's where I am. So my desktop, my information changes to say this is where I am now. Okay. Now we could change directory to a using an absolute path as well. Now we have to be able to, we can only change directory into a directory that we have access to, that we have read access to. All right, we'll talk later on in this semester about what it means to change access, how to control file access and stuff like that. But what I want to say here is we can change into a relative directory from where we are. We can change into a absolute directory. All right, so not having to know where we are. All right. The pwd command, by the way, tells me print working directory, tells me where I am right now. So notice all I'm given here in this part is what's the name of the directory that I'm currently in. That's all I know. I don't know where it is from different places. I don't know where it is from the root directory. I don't know anything except for the name of the directory I'm currently in. I don't know what its parent directory is. I don't know anything else, right? But if I say print working directory, this is going to tell me from the root, where am I? So I know I'm in videos. Now I know where videos is on the system. Okay. Then I can change using an absolute path to a different directory, to documents, print working directory. I'm in home student documents. Okay. CD dash tells me change directory to the directory I was in previously. So notice I was in videos, I moved to documents, I said change directory dash, now I'm back in videos. Okay. I don't know if you guys ever used the last channel button on your TV remote control. It's kind of like that, right? Where we say, go back to the place I was before. Okay, now I'm in videos. Okay, now go back to the place I was before. Now I'm back in documents. Okay, now go back to the place I was before. Now I'm back in videos. Okay, CD with no argument is going to move me up one folder. It's the same as CD ... Okay, so if I were to do CD ... that moves me up to one directory above. CD folder name moves me into the directory below me with that name. CD absolute path moves me into that folder using that absolute path. Okay, so here that's what I just said with the CD ... CD ... moves me up. CD ... moves me up into home, from student into homes, from the student home directory into the system home directory. Right, CD ... moves me up into the root directory. Okay. Right. Oh, I'm sorry. I said one thing wrong. I just realized. CD with no arguments moves me into my home directory. Okay. So, sorry. I wish I could go back and edit that, but that's going to show up. So, okay. What I'm trying to say is when I use CD with no commands, with no argument. What just happened? Let me do that.
CD student at desktop.
No, I don't want it reading. Why is it reading stuff? Okay, CD with no arguments tells me, okay, it moves me into my home directory, not moves me up a level. CD ... moves me up a level. So here I am in the root directory, the root directory of the whole system. I say CD. It's going to move me into my home directory, my user's home directory. Okay. All right. So that finishes up section. Let's see, which section was that? That's the That was the locating files by name. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and take our break now. I hope it wasn't too laggy. Let me know in the chat for this class how often you thought that it was lagging too much, the network was having issues, and so we can see if what we can do going forward to make sure that this does not happen. Okay, to make sure that that doesn't happen too much. All right. So after the break, we'll continue on with managing files using command line tools. We will finish through chapter 2 today. We'll finish through chapter 2. We'll talk briefly about chapter 3 in the second hour, but my main thing I want to do in the second hour is pull up the CentOS virtual machine and do some examples through that so you can see how that works. Okay. All right, let's take our break now, and I'll stop the recording, and I'll see you in 10 minutes.